The AI that I trust with my work every day is not the AI whose mission I trust the most. And the more useful the AI gets, the more that bothers me. You see, right now my daily driver is ChatGPT. Not just ChatGPT in the normal app, but I use it inside OpenClaw. I use it inside Hermes Agent. I use it inside the systems that I'm building to help me make videos, write scripts, manage projects, plan my life, build tools, and basically do the work of a much bigger team. I use AI all day long. You see, I use it to think through ideas, like this video, for example. I use it to challenge my arguments before I say them out loud. I use it to help me turn messy thoughts into something that can actually become content. I use it to remember things that I would typically forget. I use it to build tools that I could not have built this quickly a few years ago. So I'm not coming at this as someone who thinks that AI is a toy. I am already depending on it in my day-to-day life. And that is the problem, because the more I use AI, the less I think the important question is which model is the smartest. That matters, but it's not enough. The deeper question is, which AI do I trust to sit between me and reality? Which AI do I trust to help shape what I see, what I question, what I believe, what I build, what I avoid, and eventually what I let act on my behalf? That is why I'm actually rooting for Grok, which is weird because I barely use Grok as of right now. And I think that contradiction is the entire video, honestly. You see, I'm rooting for Grok to win the AI race, but I do not use Grok as my daily driver because for my actual work, it's just not good enough yet. Not compared to ChatGPT, not compared to Claude. Not for the things I actually need AI to do. And I do not mean that as some cheap insult. Grok is impressive. All of these frontier models are impressive. Compared to where AI was just a few years ago, all of this still feels insane. But once you start using AI as more than just a chatbot, the difference starts to become more obvious. A lot of people say that current AI is already good for 99% of users. And if AI is just a better Google, then yeah, maybe they're right. If the job is to answer a question, summarize an article, write a basic email, explain a concept, or give you a recipe, then yeah, most decent models can probably do that well enough. But that's not the future that I care about, and that's not the future that I think most of us see, and it's not how I use AI now. I do not just ask AI for information. I use AI to do work. And that is where the gap still shows up when it comes to these models. A model can know the answer and still be bad at doing the job. Can it hold context for a long project? Can it use tools correctly? Can it follow constraints without forgetting them 10 minutes later? Can it recover when something breaks? Can it understand the actual goal instead of just obeying the next sentence literally? Can it make judgment calls? Can it operate inside a real workflow without me babysitting every single move? That is the difference between a chatbot and an agent. And for my use case, Grok is still behind there, unfortunately. And so that's why I use ChatGPT. It works better in the harnesses that I use. It works better with the tools that I use. It is stronger for the coding, planning, writing, and agentic workflows that I rely on every single day. So this is not me saying that my favorite product should win. It is almost the opposite. The product I use the most is not the product whose mission I want to succeed. And that is the tension that I'm dealing with. And that's exactly why I think I care. Because if AI is going to become something that we rely on this much, then the mission behind it matters. And Grok's mission, at least the mission that xAI claims for, is truth-seeking. And that's the part that I'm rooting for. Not blind loyalty to Elon, not blind trust in xAI, not pretending that Grok is already the best model. I like Elon. I respect a lot of what he has built. I think buying Twitter, now X, mattered more than people want to admit. But if OpenAI came out tomorrow and said, we are rebuilding ChatGPT around truth-seeking, user control, privacy, and not managing adults like children, I'd support that 100%. If Anthropic did it, I would support that. If Google did it, I would be suspicious because it is Google, but I would still support the direction. My allegiance is not to the company. It is to the direction. And right now, Grok is the major frontier model most publicly saying the thing I think needs to be said. AI should seek truth. That sounds obvious to us. And it shouldn't really be that controversial. But I think it is becoming one of the most important questions in the entire AI race because AI is not just another app. It is becoming the layer that we think through. Twitter was the speech layer. If the speech layer gets captured, people cannot say what is true. AI is becoming the thinking layer. If the thinking layer gets captured, people may not even find what is true. That is a different level of power. You see, most people are not going to research every issue from scratch. They are not going to read primary sources, compare multiple arguments, check every citation, ask 5 different models, and rebuild the full context themselves. They are going to ask their AI. And if the AI gives them a clean, confident, polished answer, that answer becomes reality for them in practice. Not because truth changed, because they never saw what was missing. And that's what scares me about these large language models. Not just that AI could be wrong, AI is wrong sometimes. Humans are wrong constantly. Being wrong is not new. The scary part is an AI that is wrong, filtered, biased, or incomplete in a way that the user cannot even detect. Because as AI gets smarter, it will become harder for normal people to know when they are not being shown the whole picture. You see, right now, you can still catch a lot of hallucinations. You can see when an answer feels off. You can ask follow-ups. You can compare it to what you already know. But what happens when the AI is smarter than you in the domain you are asking about? What happens when it knows your preferences, your fears, your habits, your politics, your health, your relationships, and your weaknesses? What happens when it does not just answer your questions, but starts helping you make decisions proactively? That is where bias stops being an annoying answer and starts becoming control. If AI is just answering trivia, bias is annoying. If AI is helping run your life, bias is control. A biased chatbot might give you a slanted summary, a slanted answer. A biased personal agent might shape what you read, what you buy, what you prioritize, what you worry about, what you ignore, who you trust, what you create, and how you interpret your own life. And it might do all of that while sounding helpful, but being controlled by somebody else's narrative. You see, that is the version of AI that we need to think about now, before it becomes normal. Because I do think that personal AI is where this is going. I think a lot of people who say they do not need AI are judging it based on what AI is today. They are thinking of a chat box. They are thinking of prompts. They are thinking of homework, answers, and email drafts and things like that. But the real shift happens when AI becomes capable enough that you do not have to know what to ask. Just imagine waking up and your AI says, "Good morning. I notice you keep losing time on this part of your workflow. So overnight, I built a small tool that should save you 2 hours a week." Or, "You said you wanted to get healthier, but your schedule keeps breaking the plan. So I rebuilt the plan around what you actually do instead of what you wish you did." Or, "You've been avoiding this decision for like 3 weeks now. Here are the trade-offs. Here is what you keep circling around, and here is the one question that you probably need to answer." You see, that's not Google. That is not just a chatbot. That is a digital operator that knows you better than anyone else. And if that future is coming, then I care a lot about whether that operator is honest. I care whether it belongs to the user. I care whether it protects privacy. I care whether it tells the truth even when the truth is inconvenient. I care whether it helps me think or quietly nudges me toward conclusions that someone else decided are safer. That is the difference. And this is where people usually try to collapse the argument into politics. They hear truth-seeking and censorship and immediately try to put it into a left versus right box. I do not think that is the right frame at all. Yes, my instincts on this are more libertarian. I generally trust individuals more than I trust governments and giant corporations deciding what is best for everyone. But the danger is not only one political side. A Republican AI that mostly agrees with Republican is not the answer. A Democrat AI that mostly agrees with Democrats is not the answer. That is just automated confirmation bias. The real danger is that every tribe, every institution, every company, every government, and every ideology will be tempted to build an AI that makes its worldview feel like reality. That is why truth-seeking matters, not team loyalty, not my side's AI, truth-seeking. And I do not think everyone building controlled AI is evil, to be clear. Actually, that's part of what makes it so dangerous. You see, a lot of control comes from good intentions. People want to prevent harm. They want to prevent misinformation. They want to protect vulnerable users. They want to stop people from doing dangerous things. Those are not fake concerns, but good intentions do not automatically justify unlimited control. A safety rule can start reasonable and then expand. First, it's do not help people directly hurt other people. Fair. Then it's do not provide dangerous operational details. Also fair in some contexts. Then it becomes do not discuss harmful narratives. Then do not reinforce unhealthy beliefs. Then do not allow emotional attachment. Then do not answer in a way that could lead the user toward the wrong conclusion. And suddenly the AI is not just preventing harm, it is managing the user. That's the line that I care about. I'm not saying that there should not be no boundaries at all when it comes to AI. That would probably be ridiculous, even though in a perfect world, that's what I wish we had. But if someone asks AI how to hurt people, commit crimes, or expose an active military operation or whatever, there are obviously real reasons not to provide information on that. There is such a thing as direct harm. But there's a massive difference between preventing direct harm to other people and deciding what adults are allowed to think, ask, debate, or emotionally connect with. I do not think any government, corporation, lab, or safety board should get unlimited authority to make that decision for everyone. And if restrictions exist, they should be narrow, they should be transparent, they should be reviewable, and they should be able to be challenged. They should not quietly expand forever. Because once the control layer exists, someone will use it, maybe for good reasons at first, maybe by good people at first, but the mechanism is still there. And when that mechanism sits inside the AI that people use to think, create, decide, and act, it becomes incredibly powerful. And that's why I keep coming back to Grok. Not because Grok is automatically immune to this. It's not. Grok is still controlled by a company. Elon and xAI could fail. They could compromise. They could censor. They could say truth-seeking as branding and then slowly become like everyone else. That is possible. So no, I do not think that Grok deserves blind trust. I think the promise matters because it gives users a standard to judge them against. If xAI says Grok is truth-seeking, then users can ask, is it? Is it actually showing competing arguments? Is it admitting uncertainty? Is it following evidence? Is it being honest about what it does not know? Is it resisting pressure to manage the user? Or is it just another polished assistant with a different personality? That standard matters. And I want that standard to put pressure on the entire industry. I want OpenAI to feel pressure from it. I want Anthropic to feel pressure from it. I want Google to feel pressure from it. I want every AI company to know that users care about honesty, not just safety branding and benchmark charts. Now, the strongest counter-argument is probably this. Truth-seeking is impossible because everyone disagrees on truth. And I get that, totally. But truth-seeking does not mean the AI pretends to have the final answer to every question now and forever. It means the AI follows the evidence as honestly as possible that currently exists. It means it can say, this is what we know so far. This is what we do not know about this. This is disputed. This is the strongest argument on each side. This is what would change the conclusion. That is not impossible. That is just intellectual honesty. And it is very different from saying, here is the approved answer and I will hide the rest because you might misuse it, misunderstand it, or believe the wrong thing. I do not need AI to pretend it is God. I need AI to be honest about evidence and uncertainty. The next strongest counter-argument is that open source is the real answer, not Grok, not one of these frontier models. And long term, I completely agree. I do not want Grok to own the future. I do not want OpenAI to own it. I do not want Anthropic or Google to own it either. The best endgame is not one company winning forever. The best endgame is open, private, personal AI. AI that can run locally where possible. AI with user-owned memory. AI that protects your health data, your family life, your beliefs, your business, your relationships, and your private thoughts, and even the fuck-ups. AI that belongs to the person using it. That is the future that I actually want. But we are not fully there yet. Open models are improving fast. But for the kind of agentic work I care about, they still tend to lag behind the strongest closed frontier models. Not in every basic answer, in the ability to do real work reliably, tool use, long context reasoning, autonomous workflows, multi-step problem solving, recovery from errors. That is where the frontier models still matter. So short term, I want a frontier lab pushing truth-seeking as hard as possible. Long term, I want open and private AI to catch up so no single company owns the layer humanity thinks through. That's the actual position everyone should be, in my opinion. Short term, I'm rooting for Grok to win the race. Long term, I'm rooting for no single company to own the race. Grok is not the final king. It is the pressure force. It is the underdog with the right mission trying to compete against more polished, more integrated, more institutionally comfortable AI products. And I think a lot of people understand that feeling. People who use ChatGPT because it works but do not love the idea of their default AI being trained to manage them. People who respect Claude's capability but worry about the worldview baked into the assistant. People who are not necessarily Elon superfans, but are tired of every major technology product feeling like it was filtered through a committee before normal adults are allowed to touch it. That is who this is for. I'm not saying to switch to Grok today. I have not switched to Grok today, if I'm being honest. But that's the whole point. I am saying I want Grok to become good enough that switching makes sense. I do think the latest release 4.3 is a huge improvement. And listen, I want the truth-seeking model to be competitive at the frontier. I want it to be good enough for power users, good enough for agents, good enough for tool usage, good enough for real tangible work. I want it to be good enough that the mission is not just branding, it becomes something people can actually choose without sacrificing capability. Because if the only models that are truly useful are the ones that are built to politely manage users, then users will choose them anyways. I am choosing them right now. That is why this matters. Mission without capability does not win. Capability without truth is dangerous. The future needs both. And right now, Grok is the major player most explicitly trying to make truth part of the competition. So yes, I am rooting for Grok. Not because I think Elon is perfect, not because I think XAI deserves blind trust, not because I think Grok is already the best product. I do not. I am rooting for Grok because AI is becoming too important for the default answer to be trust the institution. I am rooting for Grok because truth-seeking needs a frontier champion. And I am rooting for a future beyond Grok where personal AI is open, private, user-controlled, and honest enough that no single company gets to own the thing that thinks with us. That is the real win. Grok winning now is not the final destination, it is the step toward making truth-seeking the standard before AI becomes something none of us can live without.